the Full Court Press with Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker.
Welcome back to the to the show that we're doing right now.
Following the local teams, breaking down the biggest games with in-depth analysis and team interview. Join the show by calling into 435-752-1069 or text 435-339-0321. It's the Full Court Press.
Rose, and yes! Caught! Touchdown! They did it!
What's up, everybody? Welcome on in. It's another edition of the Full Court Press. Eric Frandsen, Jason Walker, and you're tuned in to 106.9 FM, 1390 AM, The Fan. We're also streaming on 1069thefan.com and on the 1069 The Fan mobile app. Lots of different ways to listen and to participate because you can chime in and let us know a score prediction or questions or other thoughts that may be on your mind on the Young Power Sports text line, 435-339-0321, for those of you that want to chime in. Got a couple of texts that have come through, so we'll get to those before we get into our next topic to lead the hour. But 9315 texting in saying, I changed my score to a larger number, knowing what Jason just said. Jason detailing that Colorado State is not nearly as efficient offensively on the road versus at home.
Yeah, it's been a bit of a struggle for them. It started in non-conference play. They had some really rough neutral site losses, which kind of contribute to some of these. But yeah, there's a lot of different things. Like I note 3-point shooting. That was one thing I keyed in on because they've had some games where they really just outshot their opponents. They shot a decent 36% in their win over San Diego State, but they shot like 40+% against Boise State and had some other big shooting performances. But they're on the road, their highest 3-point shooting percentage in any true road game this season is 33%. That's their best, which is not great.
Not great.
Not great when that's that's literally the best I could find was 33%. Their overall, again, true road game percentage. Grant, I don't know why we say true road game. I probably should, because is there a fake road game?
Yeah, what's the difference?
We have a name for
a pseudo road game, a pretend road game.
We have a word for that. It's a neutral game. So their road game 3-point percentage is 29.8, so under 30%, which is bad for a sample size as high as I think it's 11 games they've played on the road. So these trends all indicate that Utah State should very much be able to beat Colorado State. The problem with trying to use these trends in a prediction is that there's eventually always an outlier. And that's why I find these trends interesting, but whenever I, go all in on a trend like this, it ends up being proven wrong. It's like that game where somebody puts up the stat, this team is 298-0 and leading by 5 points with 3 minutes and 28 seconds to go, and that's the game they lose.
Right. You jinx it.
It's that kind of stuff. So if Colorado State is still the poor road team it is, like this is a team that's 15-8, but they have a losing record away from home. If they continue being that road team, the Aggies have no business losing this one. They'd have to play horribly to lose this one. Heck, they could still play bad and probably win it if Colorado State remains the poor road team they are. So the Aggies need to go out there, get the Spectrum Magic in full force as much as you can. It's a 9 p.m. game, so you're going to get a lot of those non-student seats not filled very much because people, have lives.
That's late night for kids.
College students don't really have lives, so they don't care. They'll stay up till 3 a.m. But you may not have a sellout, but get that stadium in full force. Get the team out there to play a good game, play good defense. Nick Clifford has been shut down before. He's had games where he scores in the single digits. Even recently, he's had games where he's been inefficient and, forced the team to shoot bad from 3, bottle up the paint. And this is a game that should be very winnable for the Aggies, even by double figures. It just comes down to making sure they control the things they can control, go out there, hit someone, get a rebound, play physical on defense inside. Don't let Nick Clifford, slice the defense up, and you'll be fine. because Colorado State doesn't have this like overwhelming ability to just beat you down with the club. They don't have that the way that a New Mexico does right now, and the way Utah State has at times kind of shown that when they're hitting from three, they have that kind of unstoppability. Colorado State doesn't quite have that, and it's part of why they're kind of a pretender right now. Because unless everything goes almost perfectly for them, they hit a wall in these really good games. They hit a wall in these road games. So this is where you can't let Colorado State get past that by, just playing badly and handing them a chance to win. Go out there, play good, and you'll win this game with basically no exceptions.
Do you have a score prediction for the game tonight?
I liked 7994's prediction, actually, the 77-71. So I'd probably end up saying something similar. Probably Colorado State something in the low to mid 60s. So I'd say something more like 79-68, or on the lower end, something like Utah State 74 or Colorado State 60. I'd be pretty comfortable with having Colorado State in the 60s. Just depends. Utah State somewhere in the low to high 70s.
That's kind of where I was at. I was at the kind of mid 70s in my mind for Utah State, high 60s for Colorado State. This is a team that defensively, Colorado State, like their opponents, they struggle to score in some of the games. Like regularly, they're in the 60s, and except for their losses when their opponents get into the mid upper 70s or even to the mid 80s. But in those times where they win, Colorado State defensively keeps their opponents in the mid 60 range.
Yeah, they have the ability to slow teams down. They've had some games where they play some better offenses and they just kind of get boat raced a little bit. Some of the better offenses they've had some struggles against, and the Aggies have a really fairly highly rated offense. I think Ken Palm has their offensive efficiency in the 34th, I think. So the Aggies, if they don't continue their kind of 3-point shooting woes, where the last 3 games, they've shot terribly, kind of excluding the first half against Fresno State, as Coach Calhoun noted, they were 5 of 11. Then didn't make a 3 in the second half. So basically for 2.5 games, they've been really bad from 3. But in the 5 games before that, they couldn't miss. They're shooting 60% from 3 for 5 games. So if they can be a lot more like that, 50-60% 3-point shooting team than the one that was shooting in the teens the last few games, then again, there's every reason the Aggies should be able to win this one, because they'll just be able to spread out Colorado State's defense, forcing them to guard the 3-point line. And then that's where you can maybe pick them apart in the pick and roll, or with guys like Dayton Albury, Mason, Ian, slashing to the lane. And you just end up creating something that even Colorado State, with their great defense, wouldn't be able to stop. So again, Utah State should be able to overwhelm Colorado State, especially with the Rams playing poorly on the road. But as I said, there's always an outlier somewhere.
We got a text on the Young Power Sports text line from 8968. I got my facts a bit screwed up on Cornell Green. I got him mixed up with another player. Blame it on my age. He was as surprised as any when he got drafted by the Cowboys. But the coach stated he was looking for athletes who could get the job done. That he did. I picked the Aggies to cover the spread and then some.
What is the spread? I haven't even
5.5. Are you looking at the over-under? The total?
No, the spread.
Spread's 5.5 for Utah State.
Did 7994 steal his score prediction from Ken Palm? Because Ken Palm has them winning 77-71.
Oh. Possible.
Probably not. It's just a coincidence.
Yeah, I would say Aggies 74, Colorado State 67. I think that's where my mind's at.
I think that's pretty fair. 'Cause, Colorado State has a couple of games on the road where they've scored north of 70. And it's basically against Wyoming, which was one of their best offensive games on the road all year. And then, is there another away game where they scored more than 70? Oh, at San Jose, that was the other. Those were their 2 really good offensive road games. So they scored 66 at Nevada. And it was only 72 at San Jose. It's they scored north of 70, but it was barely.
79
at Wyoming, and that was. Oh, I think I keep mixing up who I'm saying their 2 best offensive games were. But then they 69 at Fresno, 65 at New Mexico. I mean, if you go way further back, 55 at Colorado. Neutral site games, they were kind of dancing around the 70s. Of course, they were 69, 67, 75 in overtime. They had 76 against TCU in overtime. So, they have, 2 road away from home games, where they scored north of 70 in regulation. This is a team that struggles to score on the road. Some of it's pace. They do have a bit of a slower pace. But this is a team that just does not score a whole lot. So if the Aggies break 70, that should almost be a win condition. You break 80, you basically guarantee a win at that point, barring Colorado State just absolutely going off.
Yeah, my concern is just Utah State allows teams to stay uncomfortably close.
Yeah, and I think in that sense, that would potentially be the Aggies playing poorly on offense. Because I don't see Colorado State keeping up with the Aggies offense if it's running at full pace.
Yeah.
It would be Aggies playing ugly on offense, getting bogged down by what is a good Colorado State defense. And that would be the way this game stays close. If Utah State can't get its offense off the ground. If they do, if they start soaring, if they're having a great offensive game, good night. Game's going to be over at halftime. But if the Aggies allow this one to get ugly, then we're going to have a real exciting one on our hands.
7994 is asking, who or what is Ken Palm? I hear you reference it, but I don't know where to find it.
Oh, sorry. It's Ken Pomeroy, one of the doesn't he live in Park City?
He lives in Utah. That's all I know.
Yeah, I thought it was around Park City or something. But yeah, he's a
statistician.
Yeah, statistician has a metric pretty highly regarded. It's kind of what we default to before we see the net. It's one that the NCAA tournament looks at. It's like if you go to kenpalm.com, you can see his rankings. There's a subscription that you can use to see more stuff, like more team-specific stuff. Their schedules in a bit more of a breakdown. But you from the base website, you can see teams' offensive and defensive ratings, their ranks, the 1 to what we're now at 364.
Yeah, something like that.
364 teams from Auburn to Mississippi Valley State. Just clearly the worst team. Yeah, so, you remember Alcorn State? This is a tangent because I saw this yesterday. Alcorn State, the team that Utah State beat, 101 to 46. Mississippi Valley State lost to Alcorn State, 86-39. So that's how good Mississippi Valley State is.
How much they struggle. So, wow.
But yeah, Ken Palm. I reference their rank. I use... I tend to go to him for offensive and defensive ranks because I don't like to use raw points per game and points against per game because there's a lot of stuff that can go into that, namely pace. And you can also see efficiency numbers, different things like that. Mind you, Ken Palm's not the only source for this kind of information. It's just the one I go to. There's a few others that I go to, but Ken Palm's kind of the most well-known.
2409, spread is currently Aggies 6.5, over and under 147.5. Okay.
I
didn't know that it moved.
No.
I guess it depends on which site you're looking at. I was looking at ESPN.
Not a gambling man, but the under...
I just updated it, and you're right. It is now 6.5.
Not a gambling man,
5.5 an hour ago.
Under on 147.5 is pretty appealing.
That's interesting that it moved the full point in an hour.
Somebody get injured?
Maybe
9315's comment about only 7 guys dressing. Is that actually true, not just a joke?
Maybe. 6391. This worked last time, so I'll say it again. I would love a game where it's never in doubt that the Aggies will win. We're talking a double-digit lead for the majority of the game. I just want an up by 20 if you're winning and you know it, and winning team, losing team chant.
There you go. It did work last time. The Aggies blew the doors off of Nevada last time. We got that from 6391. So
yeah, that's true.
Manifest it into reality.
It did work. That's right. 435-339-0321 for those who want to chime in on the Young Power Sports text line. Any other score predictions that you have for tonight's showdown between Utah State and Colorado State? And this is the two of the top 3 teams squaring off against each other. Nick Clifford poses some unique challenges for USU, but Aggies can also attack Colorado State on multiple fronts as well. So it'll be interesting to see if some of the outside shooting woes from specific players improve, and what happens at the free throw line for a couple of players as well. And just having a healthy team back home after a 2-game road trip would be nice.
Yeah, and I think it'll be interesting to see how Colorado State, how their 3-point shooting goes in this game. Because if they're shooting really poorly, then it kind of defaults to, okay, how well do they do in the mid-range? And Nate Clifford can be great in the mid-range. He's the guy that can take any shot and make any shot. And there's only a handful of those guys in the league. I can think of 3 off the top of my head, and I'm not sure anyone else really well. No, Obi Agban fits the bill because there's 4. Because you got Donovan Dent, Ian Martinez, Nate Clifford, and then probably Obi Agban. That maybe you can go a little further than that. But those are the 4 guys that every shot they take, you think it's going in. Mm-hmm. And so that's the challenge the Aggies have to face here. Nate Clifford, there's no way to stop him. You just have to make his job more difficult. Kind of went on this talk with Donovan Dent. You don't shut those players down per se. You make things more difficult and hope they just kind of end up beating themselves by just having an off night. Because Clifford, he's had games where he scores only 7 points. Or as I said, he's had like 8 games where he scores 13 or less. And the stat I came up with there is that Colorado State is 2-6 when he scores 13 or less. So it happens, and it happens a decent amount. A third of Colorado State's games, he's scored 13 or less points. So you can slow him down. The trick is just make it as difficult as possible for him, and then don't let anybody else go off in his place. Because one of the games they won with Nate Clifford only scoring it was like 10 or 11 points in that game. It was against Radford, and you had basically 4 other guys going for 11, 12. One guy, Mbemba, their 6'7", 250-pound big, he went for like 16 in that game. Then a guy off the bench go for 16 in that game. So just slow Nate Clifford down. Don't do it at the expense of letting everyone else go, because if you focus in on Clifford, he has great court vision. He'll find the open guy. So if you're going to collapse on him, make sure that his outlet pass is to somebody that you can close out on effectively. And that's just a simple principle of defense. When you're throwing numbers at a guy, is make the only pass one that takes a minute to get there and you can recover from. So do all those things with Clifford. Don't let Jalen Lake go off for a huge game. Or if he does, make sure it's not him and Clifford at the same time. So it'll be really interesting to see how Colorado State manages this. As I said, the 3-point percentage I think is going to play a big role, because if that's going, then it takes a lot of pressure off of their interior offensive game, which is where they like to be. They like to score inside. They're really efficient at scoring inside. But the Aggie zone should be able to limit that. Again, one of the strengths of the zone is being able to defend inside, throw numbers at guys. You don't necessarily need this elite rim protector, though they have guys like Abin Gadarazzi who can bother shots inside. So if you're able to collapse and force Colorado State out of its comfort zone and out to the 3-point line, then obviously we're going to have to see how Colorado State responds. Can they hit from the outside, or are they going to, despite playing against the zone, are they still going to be able to impose their will in the paint? And that's kind of the chess match that I'm expecting in this one.
Yeah, pregame coverage will begin at 8, and tip-off will be at 9. And late one in the spectrum, if you want to give us a score prediction, 435-339-0321, 6211. Giving a prediction, Aggies 70, Rams 63.
Yeah, it's a solid prediction. I like it.
I could see that. I think that I agree. I'd love to see something like we saw against Fresno, where the Aggies just come out and blitz them. But they weren't really able to hang on that much either.
Yeah, but I think the big key there, I think the biggest difference was Fresno State had a bit of a matchup thing, and they have, again, just a better matchup against Utah State's defense. I don't know if Colorado State has that. I've not seen them go against the Aggies, so I don't know. Maybe they do, and I just haven't seen it yet. Because Fresno State's been a bad offensive team against everyone else, but they've been really good against the Aggies. 80-plus points in 2 games, in both games. But I think it's entirely possible that Colorado State, if they get blitzed, just don't have enough to rally quickly. Some slower-paced teams can really struggle to rally without doing what San Diego State's done 2 or 3 times, where they just go on a 20-0 run. And I don't know if Colorado State can pull off a 20-0 run against the Aggies if they find themselves down early in the first half, and for much of the second half, if the Aggies have that lead, it'd just be really hard for the Rams, who are a defensive team and a slower paced team, to blitz the Aggies back and manage to make a rally in the same way Fresno State almost did to the Aggies kind of twice, to be honest.
Yeah. 435-23. There we go again. 435-339.
You're going to keep doing it? You're eventually going to get through your whole phone number at some point.
Oh, I don't know why. 435-339-0321. If you want to chime in, if you want to give us a score prediction, Utah State, Colorado State, tipping off tonight at 9. And in the Spectrum, it's a home game. It'll be on FS1 in case you can't make it to the game. But also be on the radio and be streaming as well on our sister station, KVNU, 102.1 FM, 610 AM, kvnutalk.com, and the KVNU mobile app. All right, we're going to take a quick time out here on the Full Court Press. When we come back, a federal lawsuit has been filed against Utah State, against Elizabeth Cantwell, Diana Sabau, and Mica McKinney. We'll update you on that next here on the Full Court Press.
Hi, this is Ashley with LSS Insurance. Medicare can seem complicated, but it doesn't have to be. Let us help. We'll answer all your questions and get you specific information that fits your needs. Medicare is not one size fits all. We'll help you find the right coverage for you. Call 752-9493. You can ignore the TV and the junk mail. We'll get you the exact information you need. We will help you access the benefits that are important to you. Call LSS Insurance at 752-9493.
It's cold outside, but you can keep warm inside with a quality-built, super-efficient York furnace. Count on a furnace from York because it's backed by the strongest warranties available. Call Advanced Heating and Air Conditioning, your local York dealer, at 752-7272. Online at advancedheating-ac.com.
We're not comfortable until you are. Advanced Heating and Air.
No matter what the conditions, DD Auto and Salvage can get your vehicle up and off your property. Now is the time to plan to make extra cash by calling DD Auto and Salvage and moving that old vehicle. Let them pay you for that junk vehicle. DD Auto and Salvage makes it so easy to get rid of your junker vehicles, paying you the most money possible. If you have metal, DD Auto and Salvage in Logan wants to pay you today. Call 787-1204. That's 787-1204 today. See store for details.
Over the past few years, strong and crazy weather patterns have battered various parts of the country. Northern Utah and southern Idaho are not immune from its share of wild weather. Be prepared for power outages with a Generac backup generator from Golden Spike Electric. They are your local source for Generac sales and service. Generac keeps you in control when bad weather strikes. Golden Spike Electric, powering your peace of mind. Online at gsegenerators.com or call 257-3016. They also service other models.
Have you heard about Speed Queen washers and dryers yet? This is Jay with Daryl's Appliance. It's true, they are high-quality machines and are best sellers. At the end of the month, they are raising prices. This is your last chance to get 2024 pricing. If you buy a washer and dryer set, we will give you free hoses and a detergent kit. See store for details. Hurry while supplies last. Make sure you have Daryl's service with your cell. Experience the Daryl's difference. Daryl's Appliance, west on Airport Road.
The Aggies, the Jazz, the high schools, the Full Court Press on Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM. The Fan.
Hey, all the sleds have to go at Young Power Sports in Logan. They've got a huge inventory of used sleds, and they're going to be slashing prices for 4 days only from February 19th through the 22nd. So put that on your calendar. We'll give you more details as we get closer, but a lot of great deals in store at Young Power Sports in South Logan. And they sponsor the text line here on the Full Court Press, and 9315 chiming in during the break. Let's see. The real question, can anyone trust a ram with all that fluff and not much else in that woolly? And then also, Eric, just share your whole phone number by your birthday so we can bomb your phone with 1 year older and wiser to text remind you of your old age.
There you go. Perfect.
No, you don't need to do that. That's okay. I'm getting to the point where I don't need to be reminded about how old I am.
Yeah, it's something you You don't necessarily need. Sometimes I forget how old I am.
It's okay. So news today, there've already been a few lawsuits filed, and there's been a new one filed against Utah State over how it handled really the firing of Jerry Bovee, Amy Crosby, Austin Albrecht, and Blake Anderson last summer. This lawsuit filed in federal court today is the plaintiff is Jerry Bovee, and it's against Utah State University as an institution. It specifically names Elizabeth Cantwell, specifically names Diana Sabau, and specifically names Mica McKinney. And basically, there's 11 different what do they call them? Reasons why there's these different actions, I guess they call them, in this suit.
Like cause of action or
cause
something
of
like
action, yeah. And it's for a variety of different reasons, like intentionally retaliation, and there's no due process, and a variety of different reasons that are outlined in this 60-page document that it is officially filed. Now, it doesn't list the references to certain like exhibits that support some of these claims, but those were not shared with the media.
Except most of those are public or we already have them.
Right. And sometimes it's...
for instance, one of the exhibits...
Some of it's redacted, the information that we have.
Although some of the redactions, I know what it says because it's... Well, you can kind of... Some of them was like, Hush Blackwell said this in the report. I was like, well, I can go read the report.
I don't know.
It's
why.
there, at least the summary. But yeah, I know one of the exhibits is literally an article that I wrote, which is weird to see, like, wait a minute. That's an exhibit?
Yeah, they reference articles in local media, comments that were made by Cantwell or Sabau in media settings. And Bovee makes his case that... and I think the most interesting and compelling part of this is that this all stems from an investigation over an incident that happened in 2023, spring of 2023. And Bovee's claim is that he found out about it. There was a joint filing for the report to say that they had found out about it, and they, within 24 hours, filed that report with the Office of Equity, that's her Title IX office. But Utah State University, when it fired Bovee and Crosby, it said that they weren't doing their job right on this. And so this whole thing has been about, well, what really was at hand? How bad was this incident? Because the Utah State was painting this picture like there was gross negligence going on under Jerry Bovee's leadership. And Bovee is defending himself. And I think everyone has every right to defend themselves. And you look through some of this stuff, and the Utah State University made an example of Jerry Bovee and Amy Crosby, in addition to what happened with Blake Anderson and Austin Albrecht. But didn't give them due process, as that's been made clear in this lawsuit. Didn't give them a chance to have any way to respond to these claims. They were, the media found out about them being fired before these individuals themselves found out they were getting fired. And in addition to that, this all centers around a student athlete who was never investigated by the Office of Equity, by the Title IX office, who was still allowed to be in school and still take classes and even graduate, even though he didn't have enough credits to graduate.
Yeah, I need to send in something to Utah State to let me graduate now.
So it's weird, right? That some of these things, like if it was so bad, what this student athlete did, why did you let him stay around on campus? And because they made it sound like in their announcements and in their official documentation that Utah State sent out, signed by Elizabeth Cantwell and Diana Sabau, it expressly said that there was a sexual assault, and that Blake Anderson, Jerry Bovee, like brushed under the rug or tried to do their own investigation, whatever their reasons were. But if it was so bad, why did that player was he still allowed to be like in school?
Well, it's not the severity. Again, it all comes down to whether or not he reported, because whether it's severe or not, it could have been a case where, like, even if it were a case where somebody just straight up lied about being raped, that has nothing to do with what Jerry Bovee's responsibilities are. And so, sure, it was a case where whether it was severe or not, that's not really the issue.
No, it's not.
So that's
was
not
there an incident that he found out about, and did he report it?
Yeah, and so that's the issue there. And that's what, when people focus on the incident and whether or not the girlfriend of the player was defending, like, when people focus on the incident itself, it gets me a little bit
kind of missing the point.
Yeah,
really,
it completely misses the point. It's completely irrelevant. When Blake Anderson, he spends a lot of time in his lawsuit citing about how much of a non-issue the thing is, or at least at times he's cited that's a non-issue. It's like, that has nothing to do with this, because it all comes down to reporting things, because that's what it comes down to. Their job is not to, report if they think it's serious or it's not, again, it's all about whether or not they report. And that's what this ultimately comes down to. And to me, the thing that was interesting that felt kind of new, because there's a lot of things about, again, toxic workplace environment, stuff that I've seen before, that I've read before, seen statements on, all kinds of stuff. I've heard a lot of that before, but Jerry Bovee really seemed to place a lot of evidence on, or a lot of time in the lawsuit, more than I feel like I've seen him place before in lawsuits, about him filing a report, a joint report with, I believe it was Eric Olson.
To Eric Olson.
Yeah, with Eric. That's the key point. Not to Olson, but like with him.
Right.
Filing that joint report as is allowed by the thing. Because the whole thing with the allegations against Jerry Bovee is that he didn't file a timely report, although they've now said he filed a timely report. But Utah State seems to indicate that, like, they never outright say it, but almost imply that he should have filed another report when he gained new information.
Right, because they're trying to claim that he didn't file all the information that he knew at the time.
Yeah, and the thing is, based on Blake Anderson's thing, because Blake Anderson almost seems to be trying to pin everything on Jerry Bovee. Not explicitly, but it's like, I told Jerry Bovee everything, therefore I'm not at fault here. Jerry Bovee says, I submitted that initial report, and therefore when I did that, that was everything that he needed to do. And they go on at length. And again, the thing they add is that they spend a decent amount of time filling in background on the alleged incompetence. I don't even know if I have to say alleged, just at times incompetence of Utah State's own Title IX office.
Right.
The problems that got the DOJ in Logan to begin with.
And we're not all athletics related.
Yeah, a lot of it was elsewhere in the university, the music department, namely. That was another one of the more public things. But a lot of this stuff, or pretty much all of it, predating Jerry Bovee, and noting that based on their knowledge, nobody was disciplined in the Title IX office. So his whole angle seems to be, so far as I can understand it from reading those sections. I skipped some of the sections of stuff that I felt like I'd read before, but it's his contention that the Title IX office was the one who dropped the ball here. He reported, then the Title IX office never followed up, never asked for more information, and the next time he hears about any kind of investigation, it's Hush Blackwell, where he alleges there's a ton of contradictions. He's never gotten the full report. Utah State has never provided Jerry Bovee with his own initial report, like, because he's asked him, like, can you provide that report that was sent in, that joint report with Eric Olson? Like, he's never gotten that back, because that would potentially show that, he submitted it. That's evidence, mind you, when this lawsuit goes through, like, that will become discovery, so that will eventually come out. But it seems to very much be with Jerry Bovee. It's, I submitted that initial report, therefore I did everything I needed to do. And then after that, there's toxic workplace. There's also the contention of him, like, even if I did do something wrong, I should have been allowed to resign. Because in citing a couple of other examples where even the people involved, like with the music department incidents, they were allowed to resign. instead of just being fired for way worse stuff that's being alleged toward Jerry Bovee.
Yeah, way worse.
So that's a whole other thing. But the main argument eventually is going to be, because that's what this whole thing is over, is did Utah State, fire Jerry Bovee with cause, is going to be based on, Utah State firing him over the violations of basically not reporting properly. So that to me is interesting. Mind you, I struggle trying to make definitive statements after reading a lawsuit because it is entirely one-sided. It is blatantly one-sided. It is sometimes preposterously one-sided. Not saying that's exactly what's happening here, but we do also need to remind ourselves of Utah State side. Go back, read the reports, different things like that, because Jerry Bovee is going to make himself look like Superman in his lawsuit. That's just how it's going to be. So for me, it's like you read Jerry Bovee, and there are some allegations that are troubling. Like if what Jerry Bovee is saying is true, that doesn't look good for Utah State. But it's also worth keeping in mind that there is, again, it's been said, you can't cut cheese so fine that there's not two sides. We're seeing Jerry Bovee's side. Remember, there's also the Utah State side of this as well.
Yeah, and I think circling back, my point about the student athlete in question who had these allegations of this misconduct wasn't to shed light that, it really wasn't that bad of an incident. Something did occur, but to shed more light on the failure of the Title IX office, that they didn't investigate, they didn't take action on the student. And as far as we know, no discipline action on anybody in those offices.
Yeah,
yet Jerry Bovee and Amy Crosby are the fall guys? For what? Because of personality conflicts, because the new AD doesn't like these people and sees them as threats.
Yeah, because the DOJ ripped the Utah State Title IX office a new one.
Yeah.
Because their analysis was, Jerry Bovee screwed up. Of course, they were basing that off the Hush Blackwell, which that may or may not be. We've had the guys who are implicated in it say it's wrong, but I don't know. He said, she said at that point. But Hush Blackwell said Jerry Bovee is screwed up, but they're pretty much the only ones at this point who have ripped into the Utah State Title IX office. Although Jerry Bovee now kind of joining that. Saying that, look, Title IX office really needs to be pointed out here as someone that screwed up, or an entity that screwed up. But yeah, Crosby and Bovee appear to be the fall guys, at least in Jerry Bovee's narrative.
Right. So there are some details already on CashValleyDaily.com. There is the link to the suit itself. It's 60 pages long, 11 different, what did you call them?
Exhibits?
Well, not exhibits, but
excuse me. Cause of action.
Cause of action.
Yeah,
yeah.
There's like 30 exhibits.
But some of those are that Bovee went to the Human Resources Department to complain about a toxic workforce or work area, workplace environment. Thank you. And when he went to go submit his written report to them,
he was fired.
Apparently told him that he was fired and he couldn't submit it.
Apparently, he was fired en route to submitting his formal complaint, which seems like a coincidence, but if a lot of the things Jerry Bovee is saying, it's also highly believable that kind of shenanigans would happen. So that's where things get interesting, because there's a lot of things that, if what Jerry is saying is true, there are problems with Utah State, but there's also a lot of things that Utah State and the Hush Blackwell thing have alleged that don't paint a very good light for Jerry Bovee and for Blake Anderson. And that's the thing. And it's why I've really
more so for Blake than for Jerry.
Yeah, Blake hasn't had a whole lot of redeeming evidence come out from his camp. Mind you, it's not like he's done something horribly wrong, but he hasn't had anything that kind of redeems him from some of the things that have been alleged against him. Again,
yes,
not criminal or terrible things, but just not great things. And so for me, it feels like Jerry and Amy had a better case than Blake fighting back against Utah State. Mind you, I think all of them are fighting back. But again, it's, as I've read all things, there's no evidence for the things everyone is saying. It's just, these guys said this and these guys have said this, and I just have to figure out what seems most logical and then present that as best I can here on this radio show. I've tried to put it in written form as well, but it's a messy situation where there are contradictory accounts from both sides. Jerry and Blake just both say that Hush Blackwell is an investigation that's wrought with error. Where's the evidence that it is? We don't have it, but obviously we don't have any evidence that what Hush Blackwell says is 100% gospel either. It's something that you try and have to suss through a little bit, and you can't just make blanket statements about, I've seen people saying blanket statements about Jerry that's like, we don't need to go that far. And I've seen people going the other way, blanket statements about Diana Sabau and Elizabeth Cantwell. It's like, we don't need to be going that way anyway, because half of it is coming off as sexist anyway. So you just got to be careful when discussing this, not to jump to conclusions. Yeah.
But to this lawsuit's credit, there are a lot of citations about per Utah State policy about how things should be done when it's time to let somebody go. What that process is like, what that due process is like, what are the reasons that need to be checked off in order to do that. And Utah State, according to this lawsuit, ignored a lot of these policies. And they made a lot of statements that we have talked about that were very inflammatory. They used very inflammatory language in the release and in the announcement as to why these people were let go that do not fit what actually, at least what was reported to have happened.
Yeah, well, I'd mostly say careless language, because when people say inflammatory, they use the language that is consistent with their handbook. But it's careless because the language of their handbook has a different meaning when it reaches the public. It's like people using scientific terminology. It means a different thing to the public. Use the term scientific theory. That has a very different meaning than what we talk about in casual. So when they say sexual misconduct,
or a sexual assault.
Yeah, like that sounds, they've generally used sexual misconduct. The initial one may have included the verbiage of sexual assault, but they're fairly consistently they've used sexual misconduct, but it's misleading and careless for them to do so. And that's where it's gotten them into a bit of trouble, because now Jerry and Blake are saying inflammatory language when it's like, well, Utah State handed them that ammo by being incredibly careless. Perhaps maliciously. If it was maliciously, then yeah, it is inflammatory. I'm not 100% sure if it is, because a lot of times they couch this in PR language. But yeah, it's kind of a sticky situation with the way they decided to use their language. Again, consistent with their handbook, but you got to actually think about it for 2 seconds.
Right. Yeah, because it's some of the points that are made in this suit that's filed today that they're using terminology and words to cause harm, specific harm, not just to fire or to remove from position, but to cause harm in all of their abilities to gain employment again in these fields. Because who will hire anybody who was fired for these reasons? So anyway, it's the latest shoe to drop. I mean, just it makes sense why Elizabeth Cantwell is trying to get out of here as fast as she can. Because she is listed specifically in a lawsuit, a federal lawsuit, for how she handled an employee situation at Utah State University.
Yeah, so we'll see how these things go. 8968 texting in says, in the end, there will be a settlement and likely never go to court. Yeah, that's how I think it's going to end. Utah State's just going to pay a ton of money,
conceivably,
and Jerry and Blake will take that money and. If both of them are able to get new jobs, Blake's already got a new job.
I would suspect, Blake Anderson has a suit. Jerry has now several suits. I would imagine Amy Crosby has a suit coming soon. I would be shocked if she doesn't file one.
Yeah,
she deserves to file one. So we'll see what happens next, but it continues. For Utah State. All right, we've got to take a time out. If you want to read more about that, it's available on CashValleyDaily.com. Take a step aside. We'll be right back here on the Full Court Press.
Les Olson IT structured cabling is second to none. Tired of old and inefficient cabling? Have an upgrade or remodel planned? Building a new network from the ground up? We offer the very best in low voltage cabling installation, including data, phone, fiber optic, and more. Ask us how to get your free consultation today.
Les Olson IT. Need a reliable partner for your medical needs? Look no further than Triton Medical and Transportation. We offer top quality medical soft goods right here in your community. From incontinence supplies and oxygen needs to medical transportation. Whatever you need to stay comfortable and healthy, we've got you covered. Trust Triton Medical and Transportation, caring for our community with every step, every mile. Call us today at 435-557-6687 or visit us online at mytritonsupply.com. Triton Medical and Transportation, because your health matters.
This Valentine's Day, give a piece of jewelry from S.E. Needham Jewelers. Save time and money by taking advantage of our Valentine's Day special. With the purchase of any jewelry valued at $149 or more, you'll receive dinner for two, chocolates and flowers. You can have Valentine's Day covered in one stop. Choose from a large selection of diamonds, pearls, gold, and silver jewelry. Also, your jewelry will come in our signature gift box. Open Monday through Saturday, 10 to 7. S.E. Needham Jewelers, middle of the block at the sign of the clock.
The perfect night, the perfect date, the perfect Valentine's dinner for two at Cafe Sabor. You choose the night, Monday, February 10th through Saturday, February 15th. Then comes the amazing Valentine's dinner. 4 options priced $25, $30, $35, and $45. You can also include a movie for two. No excuses. 5 days to make your Valentine happy, 10th through the 15th, with 4 amazing specials to choose from, including a movie at Cache Valley's favorite Mexican restaurant, Cafe Sabor. Go to cafesabor.com for details. cafesabor.com for details on the Sweetheart Special.
Following the local teams, it's the Full Court Press with Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker.
Welcome back to the Full Court Press. Eric Frandsen, Jason Walker. 106.9 FM, 1390 AM. Streaming on 106.9thefan.com and the 106.9 The Fan mobile app. Details on a lot of different things going on CacheValleyDaily.com. And besides the Jerry Bovee lawsuit, there is links to see some high school playoff games going on tonight. We've got the first round of the girls basketball playoffs in 4A, and we've got 3 local teams in action tonight, and Region 11 rematch in one of those. Mountain Crest hosting Bear River, Green Canyon hosting Timpanogos tonight in the opening round.
Yeah, and so it's interesting. Obviously, maybe a little more attention. You look toward Mountain Crest and Bear River, it being a Region 11 rematch there. It's certainly interesting because you have a Mountain Crest team that, they're rebuilding, trying to, they got J.C. Carroll in his second year, struggled a bit last year in his first year, trying to establish his vision for the program. Typical first-year coach stuff with the rebuilding program. But this year, taking some strides forward. They got themselves a winning record. They're 14-9, getting to host a first-round playoff game. So I think this should be a strong one for them. He's got, Bella Carroll, his kid, leading scorer for the team. So you've seen some players taking a step forward. Lily Smith as well. Emerson Brown is another player who I believe was coming off the bench most of last year, if I recall correctly. Another person taking a step forward, averaging 9 points per game. So a lot of growth in this team, not necessarily elite yet, but still a lot of young players. I think Bella's still only a junior, if I'm not mistaken. Junior or sophomore even maybe. So there's a lot of growth left in this team, but obviously it's here and now in the playoffs. And so you go against a Bear River team. Bear River struggled a lot this year, to be quite frank. They have some, I think, fairly exciting players. I know Aubrey Fry has been balling it out most of the year, but I think the problem is they've struggled to get supplemental scoring from a lot of players. So they have a really good player in Aubrey, but the consistency from everyone else has kind of not quite been there. So Bear River at 5-17, I don't know if they're going to be able to match up super well against Mountain Crest and win this game. I didn't look at I should have maybe looked at the previous matchups before saying anything definitive.
Yeah, Mountain Crest won both matchups between these two, 54-40. earlier in January, and then just like a week and a half ago, beat Bear River 64-45. So the Mountain Crest Mustangs won both of their two meetings. So we'll see if Bear River can make it a lot more competitive tonight.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I think Mountain Crest should be able to come in with a comfortable win, but a lot of things can happen in the playoffs.
As far as Green Canyon and Timpanogos, both teams kind of similar schedules that they've gone through. Green Canyon 10-13, Timpanogos 9-13, but Green Canyon much more, a little more offensive firepower for them. They can score a little bit more points, but they also give up more points. So this one could be interesting. Green Canyon is the higher rated team, but we'll see if Green Canyon can stay alive and get to the second round.
Yeah, and it's hard because I look at Green Canyon. This is a program that I'm used to being like an elite girls basketball team. We've seen them drift a little bit from that. They used to, go toe-to-toe with Ridgeline, but they've kind of faded a little bit. But they still have some really exciting players, Maya Hines, Talissa Nelson, players who have, again, been balling out all year. They've also got Chloe Tensmeyer. They keep putting out a lot. That Tensmeyer, there's always one of them on Green Canyon. They're always producing someone who's really good for Green Canyon sports. But yeah, I think Green Canyon should be able to put up a fight here. But yeah, they struggled a bit with consistency where they've gone toe-to-toe with some really good teams, but they've also had some games where they are just completely shut down by other teams, especially on offense. They've had a lot of low-scoring games, but they're in a fairly equal matchup with the Timpanogos team. So I think there's every chance they should be able to win this game, and it being at home, that should be an extra advantage.
The Green Canyon game will be on 100.9 Light FM, also video streaming on Cache Valley Daily. Mountain Crest versus Bear River, a couple different places, 107.7 in Cache Valley, 104.9 The Ranch in the Bear River Valley, and video streaming on Cache Valley Daily. Quick timeout with some final thoughts next here on the Full Court Press.
Hi, I'm Jay Broadbent with Alpine Home Medical. This is a story that came to us from a real customer, and I wanted to share it with you.
We came in looking for a scooter for our mother. The staff at Alpine showed us different options for scooters and battery-operated wheelchairs and helped us find one that was easy for her to handle and easy for us to get in and out of her car. They have fabulous customer service.
We love hearing about your experiences. Visit us online at alpinehomemedical.com.
Alpine Home Medical, we bring wellness home.
This is Ryan at My Mattress. This one's for the guys. Girls, you can plug your ears for just a minute. Guys, Valentine's Day is a minute away. Here's the plan. Buy tickets to the dinner and a show at Lionheart Hall that we've got going on right now, and buy a mattress at My Mattress. I'll say that again. Buy tickets to the dinner and show at lionhearthall.com and have a brand new mattress from My Mattress delivered to your house for Valentine's Day. I gotcha. Only at My Mattress and lionhearthall.com.
Many Aggie fans like to go to the game. Some fans love to yell at the TV, and all fans like to wear a shirt or a jacket with their favorite team's logo. Aggie fans find the best selection of USU logoed apparel at Locker 42. Find yourself an Aggie t-shirt for $10. Locker 42 features Aggie logoed hoodies, jackets, and golf shirts, and a hat wall with over 40 styles. Women's specific apparel, youth sizes for the junior Aggie, and toddler and infant Aggie items as well. Locker 42 is a store for Utah State fans by Utah State fans, and proud to be part of Aggie Nation.
This is Brent Wallace with Cache Valley Bank, and we understand that concerns about fraud can weigh heavily on you. Your peace of mind is important to us. That's why we're committed to looking out for you and your family. Our team keeps a vigilant eye on your account, and if you ever have concerns or need support, we're just a call or visit away. Whether you need advice or just someone to talk to, our friendly staff is ready to help. We're more than just a bank. We're your neighbors, and we care about your security. Visit your local branch today. Cache Valley Bank, member FDIC.
The Aggies are number one here. The Full Court Press. Connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, and online at 1069thefan.com.
Welcome back to the Full Court Press. Eric Frandsen, Jason Walker. Last couple of minutes here on the show, and let's hand out the stat that blew our minds, our player of the week. We don't really have time to get into the fancy, fun music.
The jingle?
Yeah. But, Jason, you got a stat that stood out to you?
So I thought this was interesting. So Super Bowl ads are worth a lot of money. And Fox ran several ads. So they had the broadcast rights. So when they run ads, they're basically giving up, that inventory, the chance to sell it to somebody else. And so they ran ads talking about they recently got the broadcast rights for IndyCar, and their season opening race is coming up soon. They were also advertising some of their star drivers, Pato O'Ward. I suddenly forget the other guy's name. I should know it. But, Joseph Newgarden. So Fox basically didn't get $34 million by running those ads, which is more money than they spent to acquire the rights to IndyCar from NBC this past year. NBC used to have those rights. They spent $25 million to take it away from NBC, and then basically invested $34 million more than they spent to get IndyCar just so they could advertise it during the Super Bowl.
That's funny. Good maths. For me, mine is also Super Bowl related, but this was at halftime of the Super Bowl. The Eagles had more points than the Chiefs had yards.
Oh, gosh.
The Eagles had 24 first-half points. The Eagles had 24 first-half points. The Kansas City Chiefs only had 23 offensive yards.
Ouch. I didn't even notice that.
It was that bad.
It was awful.
It was that bad. Quickly, you got a player of the week who stood out to you?
Isaiah Collier. I probably could have seen this coming from yesterday's show, talking about his recent play. I didn't pull up the stats in front of me, but basically averaging or close to averaging a double-double over his last 5 or 6 games in points and assists. Just fantastic stuff from the rookie.
For me, I'm going to go with Ian Martinez. I just really impressed with his game. It was his 2 games last week, but particularly how he played at Fresno, put the team on his back. 30 points in the win for Ian Martinez, and how well the Aggies did. So, nice performance by Utah State on the road. Can they bring some of that mojo back to the Spectrum? So they'll take on Colorado State tonight, late one. Pre-game coverage begins at 8 on our sister station, KVNU, and tip-off will be at 9. So have your radio handy or the app to listen along, and as you're going to and from the game. And as soon as the game is over, after the coach's comments, it'll begin KVNU Aggie Call, opportunity for you to chime in. And it was KVNU Aggie Call where I got to work closely with Bob Appuhn for as many years here, doing radio in the Valley, doing high school sports, Aggie sports, and also I got to work with him a lot more personally during Aggie Call for football, and really enjoyed my time with him. Unfortunately, Bob Appuhn passed away yesterday, and our thoughts are with his family as he had a long, distinguished career in radio in multiple places, but spent a lot of time here in Cache Valley as well. So rest in peace, Bob.
Rapid Radios, the official communication device of Fox Sports Radio, will keep you connected for big games this season with Rapid Radios walkie-talkies. Rapid Radios are instant push-to-talk devices with nationwide coverage, and they are 100% private and a great communication device for everyone.